I never forget the look in her eyes, the cold, empty stare that chilled me to the bone. It was the kind of night where everything felt wrong, like the world was holding its breath. A thick, eerie silence blanketed the palace, and the moon, full and haunting, cast an unnatural glow across the grounds. But what really froze me that night wasn't the moon or the chill in the air. It was the presence of Princess Ayotunde. I still remember the first time I laid eyes on her. I was only 15, just a boy, working as a servant in the royal palace. I wasn't the only one who worked there, of course. The palace was filled with servants, cooks, guards, and other officials, all scurrying around in the background. But no one caught my attention like she did. Princess Ayotunde was beautiful, of course, everyone said that. She was the jewel of the kingdom, the apple of her parents' eyes. But there was something unsettling about her. She never smiled like other children. She never played like other children. Her laughter was like the wind, empty, cold, and haunting. People would say she had an old soul, but I think they were just trying to explain away something that didn't make sense. She was always surrounded by an aura of mystery, whispers following her wherever she went. The elders, who spoke more freely when they thought no one was listening, said that the princess was not entirely human. They believed she was cursed, that her birth was a bad omen, that the gods had abandoned her at birth. They even said she could speak to the dead, though I thought it was just superstition, but then, something happened to change everything. It was one of those warm nights in the dry season when the stars filled the sky and the air felt thick with anticipation. The palace had just finished a feast, and most of the guests had retired to their rooms. The servants were cleaning up the remnants of the night celebration. I was on my usual duty, sweeping the long corridors that ran through the heart of the palace. I remember walking down the hallway near the princess's chambers. It was unusually quiet. There was a heavy stillness, as if the night was holding its breath. And then, I heard it, a soft whisper, almost a murmur, drifting from behind the door to Princess Ayotunde's room. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But then I heard my name. Kola. I froze. My heart beat faster in my chest. I didn't want to approach her room. I was just a servant, after all, and I had no business disturbing her. But something about that whisper, my name, so clearly spoken, pulled me forward. I felt like I had no choice but to obey. With trembling hands, I knocked on the door. Enter, came her voice, sharp and commanding. I stepped inside, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Princess Ayotunde was sitting by the window, her back to me. The moonlight illuminated her pale face, casting strange shadows around her. Her long, black hair fell in waves around her shoulders, but it was her eyes that drew me in. When she turned to face me, I could see that they were too wide, too unnatural. It was like they were trying to swallow everything in sight, like they could look straight through you. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My voice caught in my throat. There was something about her presence that made me feel small. It wasn't like looking at another person. It was like being in the presence of something ancient, something powerful, something I couldn't begin to understand. Come closer, she whispered, her voice both sweet and chilling at the same time. I wanted to step back, to run, but my feet betrayed me. Slowly, I found myself walking toward her, moving as if under a spell. I stood there, frozen, as she smiled at me. It wasn't a kind smile. No, it was something darker. Something twisted. You came, she said softly, her voice almost like a purr. Good. I need your help, Kola. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to turn around and flee, but my legs felt like they were rooted to the ground. Help you? I finally managed to whisper. She nodded. Yes. Help me bring him back. The room seemed to grow colder. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to deepen. Moving, swirling like smoke. The air thickened, and I felt an unnatural chill run through me. A shiver ran up my spine, and I tried to pull away, but I couldn't. Who are you talking about? I asked, my voice trembling. Her eyes glinted in the darkness. My love. He died because of me. I need him back. I need him to stay. Before I could respond, I felt a presence behind me. I turned, and that's when I saw him. The figure was tall, dark-skinned, and his eyes glowed with an eerie fire. His face was a mask of pain, his mouth moving but no sound coming out. He was floating in the corner of the room, his body flickering in and out of focus like a ghost. My heart raced. I didn't know what I was seeing. Was it a spirit? A vision? The princess rose from her seat and walked toward the figure, her eyes fixed on it with a kind of longing I had never seen before. Bring him back, she whispered. Bring him to me. I felt like I was suffocating. The room seemed to close in around me, the walls pressing in, the air growing thicker with every passing second. I could hear the figure's voice now, but it wasn't his voice, it was distorted, as if the words were being twisted by some dark force. Help her. Or you'll join me, the figure said in a voice that didn't belong to him. It was low, rasping, like it came from the very depths of hell itself. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I wanted to scream, but no sound came from my mouth. I felt my feet dragging, like invisible hands were pulling me toward the figure. And then, just as quickly, the room fell silent, the figure vanished, and the shadows receded. The oppressive air lifted, and everything returned to normal. But I knew it wasn't over. It was never going to be over. The princess smiled at me again, her face no longer human but something else entirely. You've seen him, she said softly, her voice like silk. Now you understand. Help me, Kola. Help me bring him back. I wanted to run. I wanted to leave the room, leave the palace, leave the kingdom. But something in her gaze held me there. I could feel her power, her darkness, seeping into my bones. I didn't know what to do. And then, just like that, everything went dark. When I woke up, I was lying on the floor of her chamber, the princess nowhere to be found. I scrambled to my feet, my heart racing. The palace was quiet again, but the feeling of dread hung in the air like a thick fog. I ran from the room, out into the halls, but when I reached the main courtyard, I was stopped by a commotion. The king and queen were there, frantic, surrounded by the guards. Something had happened. They were searching everywhere for her, Princess Ayotunde. But there was no trace of her. She had vanished, disappeared without a trace. They searched for days, weeks even, but there was no sign of her. The palace was in turmoil, and people spoke in hushed tones about the wickedness of the princess, about the spirit she had summoned and the death she had brought to the kingdom. The elders were the first to say it. The princess is not dead. She's not gone. She's still here. And she'll return. I left the palace shortly after that, too scared to stay, too afraid of what I had seen. I thought I had escaped, thought I could leave the darkness behind, but I was wrong. Now, every night, I hear her voice in my dreams. I hear her whispers calling me back to the palace. And sometimes, when the moon is full, I swear I see her shadow watching me from the corner of my room, and then I remember what the spirit said. She will never be gone. She will always return. And I know, deep down, that I never truly escaped the wicked princess.